You can't be everything to everybody, and I think that's a key where a lot of business owners think that they can't say no to a client because it means they're gonna lose revenue.
You often get more or better defined by what you say no to than what you say yes to. But the reality is, in the crowded marketplace, the whole idea is that we're looking at, instead of going out to the general marketplace and just calling out to everybody, hey, buy whatever our product or service is, that we're being very specific and being able to speak to a very specific audience.
Yeah.
And that's really what it's about, isn't it?
It is, yeah.
If you want more time, money, freedom, and have a business that's not reliant on you, then you're in the right place. Each week, Mark Creedon, along with some of the very best business minds in the world, will take you through simple, practical steps you can take to create the business you always wanted. From his own practical experience, Mark will show you how to work less, make more, and get the business you always wanted, the one that you deserve. Now here's your host, one of Australia's most sought-after business coaches, Mark Creedon.
Welcome to the latest edition of the Mastermind for Business podcast. This is the podcast if you are in business with your spouse, significant other, and you'd like to know in about 15 minutes a week how you can grow your business, scale your business, make more money, work less hours, and not ruin your relationship. And speaking of relationships, joining me in the chair as always is Caroline.
Yes.
Caroline,
Hello, Mark.
good to have you. And guys, if you're just hearing a little bit of noise in the background, we've got some construction work going on just upstairs from where we're recording this today. So it's not Caroline.
Not ideal, but it is what
It is what it is. It's not Caroline practicing the drums. It's just somebody hammering. Hey, Caroline, in this episode, we're going to talk about who is your ideal client and how to identify your ideal client. But before we get into that, let's talk about why we have to go through that. I mean, why is it important to know? And everybody talks about, you got to know your ideal client, you got to have an avatar, all that sort of stuff. Why is that important?
You can't be everything to everybody, and I think that's a key. A lot of the time we sort of think, or a lot of business owners think, that they can't say no to a client because it means they're gonna lose revenue and, client's gonna be happy, word's gonna get out that they didn't take their business, and then
Yeah.
staff are gonna see that you said no to a job or whatever that might be. So, yes, you can't be everything to everybody.
No, you can't be. And I think you often get more or better defined by what you say no to than what you say yes to. But the reality is, in the crowded marketplace, the analogy I always use is like comparing between shooting arrows in the air and shooting fish in the barrel, right? And for anybody under 45 listening to this, that might not make a lot of sense. But the whole idea is that we're looking at, instead of going out to the general marketplace and just, calling out to everybody, hey, buy whatever our product or service is, that we're being very specific and being able to speak to a very specific audience.
Yeah.
And that's really what it's about, isn't it?
It is, yeah.
I mean, I think there's two ways. Let's talk about, because what you're talking about is identifying it. I might call it niching. And I think that if you've got a service, and the clients that we work with are predominantly service business, right? Couples in a service business. But if you've got a service business, I reckon that there's kind of two ways you can niche down. And I read this great article from Pagan out of the United States, who's like the niching expert. And one of the things that he says is that there's two ways you can niche. You either niche in the problem you solve, or you niche in the people you help.
Yeah.
Right?
Yep.
Niche in the problem you solve. So, for example, in Mastermind, we can be quite broad in the problems we solve because we help you grow, we help the business scale, we help the business to be less reliant on you, help build your team around you. There's a whole range of things that we help with, but it's aimed at people who are in business with their significant other.
Yeah.
So we've got a broader topic in the problem we solve, but a much narrower
the niche
topic
is
in
there.
terms of who we help.
Yep. I think that helps with how you can put that communication together.
Yep.
Because like you were saying, a lot of the tools that we are using and that we're teaching our members is exactly the same. It's like business principles are generally the same. The platform is slightly different, but the space is different, but the principles always remain the same.
Yeah, 100%. So we're talking about the importance of understanding who you, and I love that you said before, everyone's your client. No one, because you can't, what's the old saying? You can't please all the people all the time.
No.
And if you try and do that, then I think you're being far too broad in your approach, and that's a really hard road to hoe. But let's talk about why. Like, apart from making it easier to attract the right people, there's some other reasons really, aren't there, about why it is that you'd want to understand better who your ideal client is?
Well, yes, there are. From how I look at it, I go, I can't ask my team to look after clients if I'm not super clear on what those clients are and the outcomes that we want for clients.
Yeah.
And then you're not going to have that harmony in your business if that happens.
Yeah.
Plus, you can't grow. How do you invest? You don't know what you're going to invest in if you can't grow.
Yeah. 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 The other thing I think is that Mark Beats says this, right? Mark Beats from the Barton's Motor Group. One of the things he always says is, I only do business with people I like doing business with. And so in some ways, understanding who your ideal client is really around who you like to work with, like who energizes you.
Yeah.
Because we've all had those clients. And we don't now because we're pretty particular about who we curate and who we bring into Mastermind.
Yep.
But we've all had those clients, when you see their name come up on an email or a phone call and you go, right? Because they're just energy draining. And the thing is, I think that you're doing yourself a disservice, but you're also doing them a disservice by continuing to work them. So if you do service business and you've got clients who they're just not your people, they're not your match, then that's a great time to consider replacing them.
Yeah. We do this really great exercise with members, and essentially it's just looking at across the board who your clients are.
Yep.
And I don't mean to sound rude, but you class them into A, B, C, and D class clients. Your A and Bs are your really good clients. They're
The people you love to work
people
with.
that you love to work with. They feed the psyche of your business. They pay on time.
Yep.
If you are a service where they have to input things, then they get things to you on time.
Yep.
But you have your D-class clients where they never pay on time, they never show up to their appointments, and you end up spending a lot more time with them for a lot less outcome.
It's really interesting because when you first start business, I think you take like anybody who walks through the door, right? Anybody who makes an inquiry. But the sooner you can narrow down who you want to work with, I love the fact that if you can get clients that energize you, that feed you, how cool is it that you can help someone by providing your service to them and they appreciate it, they get results, and you are made happy by the fact that you're helping them and you get paid for it.
Yeah.
Like, so you actually get paid to be happy because you're dealing with clients who get you, appreciate you, and
Definitely.
and make happy. So definitely clients that energize you, but also clients who, like you've always got to, when it comes to joining Mastermind, we're like a 2-step process, right? So you have an initial chat with people, and with our prospects, and you determine whether or not you think that they're a fit for us, and if we can help them, genuinely, if we can help them, and if they can, then they come through and they talk to me. We go from there, but. One of the criteria that you apply is you ask yourself the question,
would I have dinner with these people?
Yeah, that's right. So, and I think, it can be that simple, right? You don't have to go into great, big, long detail and have a 25-point plan as checklist as to whether or not they,
It's pretty simple. There would be, everyone's been out for dinner. You go in a group of people and some that you don't know, and you're sitting next to someone, you just think, oh my God, you're an absolute. I really don't enjoy your company.
Yeah, correct. And they might be a really nice person, but they're not your people.
They're just not your people. That's right. And if they're a business owner and you're working with them, you can't. It's almost impossible for you to make their business successful or help them with their business or their problem if you don't like them.
Yeah.
So you're really not being fair having them in your business.
And so, we often talk about, when we're talking about making decisions on something, we talk about there's ROI versus COI, right? So ROI is the return on your investment and COI is the cost of inaction. And I think you can apply those principles here. So if you're working with someone who, is not really your people, it's not really a good fit, but you're working with them because you're earning the money from them, there's the return on the investment. But the question is, what is the cost of not taking action, of moving on from that client? What is the cost? Because there's some hidden costs of wrong fit clients, aren't there?
Yeah. It does take a long time to get a new client, but it also, the time that it takes putting extra effort into making a difficult client happy can often be taxing, not only for you, but the people that are actually working with them as well. So your team that's working with them. And that just sort of it just filters down the line.
Yeah, it does. And for us, because we run a group coaching program, if somebody's not a fit, then they're not a fit, not just for us and for our team, but for the rest of the people in the group as well. But, I think the other thing too is that you're not doing them a service because there's probably a better match for them out there.
Yeah.
And you just made the comment about a difficult client. I'm okay with a difficult client because I think, I often say I've learnt the most from my toughest taskmasters who have been my bosses over the years, right? And I think that you can learn a lot from a difficult client. And we've had clients in Mastermind who are challenging and we've learnt a lot from them. And we've changed the way we run the business and we've changed some of the things we deliver. But I think there's a difference between a difficult or demanding client and just an impossibly demanding or impossibly difficult client that really you're not learning anything from, your team aren't learning anything from. And as a result, I think subconsciously you almost deliver at a lower level to them because you kind of resent, and especially if you're doing it just because you need the brass, I think you end up resenting it.
Yeah. I remember we were working with, they were builders, and they had clients that were just really difficult.
Yep. Yep.
And they ended up moving them on, but it was just emotionally taxing, and it worked out so much better for them to eliminate the problem. They have other clients who were difficult in that they were high demand, but they were able to change their systems and procedures so that they met their clients, results, and the client ended up being quite happy, even though they were still quite demanding.
Yeah.
But they still talk. They will talk to their suppliers, well, their people in their space, because they know that you will help them, even though they are a demanding client.
Yeah. The other thing too is that I've always found that every time that if we've got a misalignment and we've ended up moving a client on, that the time that we've took to work on them, we spend that time with the clients that we like working with, and we get much higher results and faster results, and we feel better about it. So I guess the important message here, Caroline, is really having a clear picture, not just of who is your ideal client, but why they are your ideal client and why you should invest time, effort, and resources into identifying and attracting them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a really interesting exercise to do a bit of an audit of your clients and look at the results that your happy clients have. Your good clients, your A-class clients, and then look at the results and the comments that your D-class clients have achieved. And then essentially you really need to look at your own business and go, okay, what am I doing? What am I doing wrong, or what could I do better so that everybody is in a position that they can communicate like they need to.
So everyone's
the clients.
aligned.
Everyone needs to be aligned. Yeah.
Yeah. And so what about this though? What happens if because we're talking about couples in business, what happens if, one partner really likes client A and thinks they're a great fit, and the other partner thinks that client A is just a dickhead? What do you do?
You just delegate.
But I mean, like there's a disagreement there, right? There's a disagreement.
Yeah, there is. Yeah, that's right. But then if you've got your communication and your roles and responsibilities, clear, and we always talk about the importance of swimming in your own lane. If they're clear, that should be a lot easier, and there'll be less of an impact on that.
Yeah. I mean, be completely honest, I trust your judgment on that a lot. And so if there's somebody that we might be looking to join Mastermind, you think they're just not for us, I'll trust your judgment over mine on that because you're more difficult to get on with than I am. But I will trust your judgment over mine. But I think the other thing too is if you're in the position where you've got say you've got a good client, and then one partner thinks they're great, the other partner doesn't like them. I think that what you can do is look at, okay, if you think they're great, then you work with them. Do you know what I mean? If you think they're great, you work with them and you shield me from them, and I can accept that.
Yeah.
But if that can't work, and I'm going, if we had a client that you said, I think they're great, and I went, I'm just really going to struggle, and it's me that's doing 70% of the work with them, then, you'd have to accept my view on it.
Yeah, you will.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And vice versa.
We all have different communication styles. We all have different ways of being able to process outcomes, things like that.
Yeah.
If you're an analytical thinker, you might struggle with a creative thinker as a client. So you've got to sort of work out who is the best person to look after that client. And that sort of, if you've got a business where I guess the sales process is your initial sales team, delegate who will be looking after that client over a period. You need to make sure that that system is being looked after so that the person that they're moving to look after them is going to be the right person.
And it's about the system, isn't it? Right? It is actually about it. I mean, that's how you succeed in business. It is about having that system in place. And and I think we spoke about this in an earlier episode, is that goals is one thing, but to actually achieve the goal, you have to have a system behind it.
Yeah.
And I think the other thing, Caroline, somebody listening to this now going, okay, so I'm looking at who I'm going to work with moving forward, and I'm going to narrow down my niche. I'm going to narrow down my ideal client. And I think that, how do I narrow that down? I think one of the great questions that you can ask is, if I stopped working with this particular type of person, what would the impact of my business be? And in some ways, I reckon it's the old line down the center of the page, the old positive one side, negative the other.
Yeah.
So
it doesn't need to be complicated.
No, it doesn't.
Sometimes we do overcomplicate
Yeah.
those sorts of things.
So, for example, if you said, I no longer want to work with, I'm just going to pluck lawyers out of thin air, right? I don't know that I want to work with lawyers anymore. With apologies to any lawyers listening right now, we love you, you guys are amazing. But it's the opposite. Well, if I stopped working with them, what would that do for me? And if I kept working with them, so it does. Sometimes, I guess the point I'm making is, sometimes it's not about the individual person. Sometimes it's about the group that they belong to.
Yep.
Yeah. And so if I stopped working with them, what would the positive of that be? What would the negative of that be? And it's a simple weigh it up and see which one works.
Yeah. Agree.
Caroline, thank you. This is great, right? Narrow down your niche. Think about in two terms. One is what's the problem you solve, or what's a particular person that you work with. So you narrow down the people you work with, or you narrow down the problem you solve. And then it's a matter of looking at, okay, where do I find them? What's the language that I use to communicate with them? And how do I help them to improve their business, or to solve the problems that your product or service does? These are the sort of things that we teach our clients in our Mastermind Business Accelerator program. Caroline, it's amazing. Looking forward to next week.
Well done.
Yep. If you are listening to this on your favorite podcast platform, please subscribe, because that will get you notification of when the next episode drops. And of course, if you know someone who's in a service business with their significant other, please share the podcast so that we can help them as well in 15 minutes or less every week. If you're watching it on YouTube, subscribe, don't forget to comment below. If you've got a topic you'd like to hear from us, please put it in the comment below. Until we chat in the next episode, please make sure you spend time with those who matter most.